Let's have a look at the before situation of this side of the yard. I put these stones here to have them as a path to walk because in the beginning when we first started on this side, this is the place where we used to do our vegetable garden, but it didn't work out. There was not enough sun, and those served as paths to step on as we're trying to collect the vegetables. So, and because our yard is actually sloped, that made it not work even more. So today we're going to transform this side of the yard with some evergreens. I already planted these evergreen trees last year, and today we're going to remove those paths and plant the boxwood there. With any yard, if you're doing things on your own as you first start, you will be experimenting until you land on the right design and the right plants. So the first thing is you need to plan. As we were planning during the winter to prepare for our first summer of planting, we thought that this side of the house made the most sense for our veggie garden since it had the most sun. However, the neighbor's trees quickly intruded and created a long period of shade. Also, we had no visibility to the ground creepers like the ivy and others that started creeping into our yard from the neighbor's house. So I had to pause and rethink this area. Also, because this side is very visible from our family room, I did not see the veggie garden very attractive to look out day in and day out, and did not like the look of the bare land during the winter, and I wanted to see some greenery and some flowers too. Also, in terms of flowers, I think that annuals are great, but I have to do that every year, and I'm not up for that challenge, especially during the season of life. Therefore, I opted for perennials. As I was shopping for perennials, I got hit with the reality of how expensive plants have become these days. Small gallon container that was $7 last year was increased to $12.99 this year. So I had to do something to cut that cost in half, and that's where the idea of splitting plants came from. Of course, you can't split every plant. There are certain plants that you can split. I'll leave a list down below in the description box for you if you're interested in doing that yourself. And by the way, don't be scared of splitting plants. The process is very easy, and you'll see at the end that they do live and they do prosper. So, how do you plant? First of all, you need to know how much sun you get in that area. And what do you want to use that area for? What's your goal for that area? Also, you need to know your region's planting zone, especially if you're buying plants online, to make sure to choose plants that grow in your region. Remember that nurseries sell plants that live indoors and out, so make sure to read the labels. Here in Chicago, nurseries bring tropical plants too, and we all know that these plants won't tolerate our winter weather, so they need to be planted in larger containers to bring indoors during the off season. Also, don't only look at the current small size of plants, you have to plant with the future in mind because these plants will grow. So you need to decide how far you want your plants to be from one another. Also, do you want to see a whole lush green area or do you want to see mulch in between? For me, the way I planted things is to, even if they grow in the future, I want to see some mulch areas in between. And if you're splitting plants this season, mulch is very important to preserve some moisture in the soil to help keep the plants alive if for some reason we were not able to water them. And the fact is that you can divide most perennials from spring through fall, but don't divide them during the hottest time of the year because dividing plants stresses the plant itself and they will recover faster if it's done in a cooler and moist condition. Okay, let's have a look at what we've done so far. De-weeded the whole area, planted the boxwoods, and the ground was so hard because it hasn't rained for a while, and it was really tough to de-weed. So I just have a small area here left to de-weed. You see this ivy? It's a creeper. It comes from the neighbor's house. Every year I have to do that, like take it all out and go out from the behind the fence from the neighbor's house and cut it from there to make it easier, but it still creeps in. Anyhow, we have this 3 feet by 6 feet to work on tomorrow. So let's put things into perspective for this makeover, what I needed and how much time it took to do the job. So I needed 5 bags of mulch, which I purchased on sale from Lowe's for $2 a bag. That was total $10. The boxwood came from Costco and it was $22 a container for a total of $110. And the evergreen trees, as I mentioned before, I bought those last year and they came from the Home Depot at the end of the season and they were $16 each, so $48 for the evergreens. Um, by the way, no taxes are included yet. I'll give you the total price with taxes at the end. The flowers came from a local nursery and they were on sale for $10 a gallon container, totaling $60. So total with tax for this whole job was $250. It took me total of 5 hours to complete the job, and the most important thing as part of this process is to clean as you go. Don't leave cleaning to the end where you have everything piled on top of each other. That will take actually a lot more time to clean up versus cleaning as you go. And the work steps that were involved as part of this process, first I removed the pavers, then I planted the boxwood, then I de-weeded the whole area, the flower bed and between the edging stones. And then I planted the flowers and mulched the area and cleaned up the debris and I watered the plants. Also, I try to use as less chemicals as possible, and because the soil here is fresh and has not been exhausted all its goodness, because we haven't been planting it for the past few years, so I did not use any fertilizer at this time, but I know that I'm gonna need to fertilize these plants at least twice this season just to get more growth and more blooms. There is one more thing that I forgot to mention about splitting earlier, which is the fact that you can even split herbs and you can split plants after you've planted them, after a year, 2 years, whatever. When you see them so large and crowded together, you can just take them, dig them out, and split them, and that will actually reinvigorate them to produce more blooms. And the way you divide something, you need to make sure that you have two parts, the top part that has leaves and the lower part that has roots and soil with it. You saw me earlier as I was planting the boxwoods. When I took them out of the containers, what I did was I disturbed the root system that was in the container just to get them to get reacclimated with the new soil as you plant them in the ground. And that will help um, bind the roots with the new soil. And after you're done planting Any plants, make sure to water them generously. Basically, what I do is I flood them with water just to make sure that you get rid of any air pockets that exist at the root system. You notice that I did not put any weed barrier while doing this makeover. It's because this part of the yard it doesn't really have a lot of weeds. I can just get away with de-weeding this part twice or three times the entire season. And just because I did this makeover, that doesn't mean that this area is going to stay like this forever. Our taste is constantly evolving and our needs are constantly changing. And I'll be watching these plants to see if they prosper here over time. And if they don't grow well or they start dying, I'm definitely going to move them into different areas of the yard where they can prosper. Okay, let me give you a walkthrough because I think this is the best this area has looked in the past 5 years. So here we go. I love the way annuals look, but honestly, it's just a hassle to do that every year. So I planted perennials here and I alternated pink flowers, white flowers, and we have the evergreens, and then in between we have the boxwood. This is in the middle here, this is the butterfly plant. It's got beautiful purple flowers that attract butterflies and I love that. This one is a peony. I got this a couple years ago from Costco and it's actually doing pretty well. This is the biggest it's been in the past 2 years that I planted it, so it looks promising. The flowers are beautiful yellow, large, beautiful yellow peonies. So I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully in the next year or two, this is gonna flower. And here we go. So I'm really loving the progress of this area, and it's gonna look so beautiful at night when all these lights are on, whether the lights from the on the posts or the lights that are on the ground. Okay, so here we are I think we're already 4 days after the fact that I planted these flowers. Look at that. They are alive and happy and thriving here. So it looks like, after all, splitting was very successful with these right now. So I'll report in another month or two to show you how this splitting is actually not only money saving, but it's also a good way to fill up your garden with a lot more plants on a budget.